What is up, guys? I hope you guys are doing well. I am back with part two of my College World Series prediction series, which will include bracket two today, and then ultimately at the very end, who I think will win the whole thing. So, bracket two includes Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas in no particular order. So, we will get right into it here with the first of our teams, which is Oklahoma. So, the Sooners back in Omaha, I believe, for the first time since they finished runners up in 2022 in the field when they lost to Ole Miss in two games here in Omaha. So, wasn't a great regular season for them, at least from a record standpoint. They finished 14 and 16 in SEC play, which was only tied for 11th in the conference, but they have been red hot, just like the color of their jerseys for this postseason. They lost only once to number two Georgia Tech, which is a pretty fair loss if you ask me. They lost 9-3 and then came back through first the Citadel and then beat Georgia Tech twice. And last weekend dominated number 15 Kansas, who got through a very tough regional of their own in the super regionals, winning 8-1 and 13-2. So if we look at this Sooner lineup here, it's not a powerful lineup, not a real power hitting lineup. You got 4 homers, 9 homers, 15, 6, 10, 12, 4, 8, 3. Certainly not one of the more power hitting teams of the tournament, which honestly I believe might be more of an advantage for them because they're used to having to produce and manufacture runs through other means, such as through small ball, just getting on base with free passes from the opponent, like stealing base isn't a free pass, but stealing bases, walks, and using those smartly, and moving runners into scoring position through small ball. So I think that's going to be actually more of an advantage for the Sooners here to play to their strengths, if you will, with having a wider, more uh, I guess, lengthy ballpark that they have down there in Omaha that will limit the home run ball, which might be more punishing for teams such as Georgia or Texas, who rely more heavily on the long ball to score runs. Oklahoma has kind of been doing what Omaha asks of them for the majority of the season. Some pitchers to highlight here: Cameron Johnson has been solid for the Sooners. 6-1 record, 4.36 ERA with 72 strikeouts. UNLV transfer LJ Mercurius also has a freshman brother, I believe, Xander Mercurius, on the team, but LJ's been solid. UNLV transfer with a 4.97 ERA, 92 strikeouts. And then Cord Rager. That's got to be one of the coolest names I think I've ever heard. Got to be on the college baseball first name team or all first name team or whatever you call it. 64 innings of work. He's got a 5-3 record and 81 strikeouts for the Sooners. So my key to success for the Sooners here is kind of just to do what they've been doing, manufacturing runs by getting on base with base hits, walks, hit by pitches, whatever it may be, and then getting those runners around with stolen bases and small ball, and they should be set up for success here. They're the only team who's not ranked on this side of the bracket. They're the only team who's lost in this postseason, but they are red hot right now. So the Sooners are certainly a team to look out for here in Omaha. Moving right along, their first round opponent, the Crimson Tide of Alabama, for year three for head coach Rob Vaughn. They have advanced to their first College World Series in quite some time as the number 7 overall seed. As we know, they got to their Tuscaloosa regional. There we go. Won that in 3 games. The final game winning over Oklahoma State. It was Brady Neal with a clutch 3-run homer to send the Crimson Tide through to the Super Regional round, and Neal was the regional MVP. By the way, I forgot to mention Dayton LaChance for Oklahoma was the regional MVP there in Atlanta. And then last weekend, didn't have too much trouble with the Cinderella story that was St. John's. The shoe did not fit for the Red Storm. Tuscaloosa, or excuse me, Alabama won 8-0 and 7-2. So looking through this lineup here, obviously the big name or the most acclaimed name is Justin LeBron, not just because of the last name, but also because he was a star last season. Struggled earlier this season in the earlier months, colder months, if you will, but certainly has rectified that and then some in the second half of the season. He's got 16 homers, 48 RBIs, as well as 41 stolen bases. The Tide do have a number of transfers in their lineup. Bryce Fowler, their leadoff, came over from Southern Miss. Brady Neal spent 2 years at LSU, 2 years at Miami, Florida for Jason Torres, 1 year for 1 year at Southern Illinois for John Lem. They even have a 3 year or a 3-time transfer, excuse me, Brennan Holt, who came from LSU, Oklahoma State, and South Alabama, all the way down to Tuscaloosa. They have some experienced veteran guys within the program, such as LeBron and such as some of their starters, but this team is mostly, or at least the core of the team, mostly comprised of transfers who haven't spent a whole lot of time here, but as college baseball and college sports evolve, I think that's going to be a lot more common. And eventually, teams that are comprised almost solely of transfers are going to have to start winning. So maybe that's the new direction here. But in terms of the pitching staff, they've got 3 guys who have been pretty much their weekend starters Friday, Saturday, Sunday, almost the entire year. The first guy being an Omaha, Nebraska native, Tyler Fay. He's been solid in 17 games this year for the Tide. 11-4 record, 4.37 ERA, 121 strikeouts, and a complete game shutout in there as well. Zane Adams has come along nicely, an 8-4 record, 3.96 ERA, 98 strikeouts. And then Miles Upchurch, who I believe is a true freshman. He's been a really solid starter in this rotation for the Tide. 70.2 innings of work, 8-3 record, 3.57 ERA, 77 strikeouts. So it is very nice to have that established set, if you will, of 3 guys who are going to be your consistent day to day, week to week, month to month, whatever you want to call it, starting rotation for the Tide there. So that's a nice piece and a nice, piece of stability, if you will, to have. So that's one of my keys for the Tide, is just relying on that elite pitching depth. Also a solid bullpen there in Tuscaloosa for the Tide. So relying on that, as well as clean defense. They've been a bit one of the more sloppier defensive teams in the field, out of the teams that you'll see here in Omaha. So just cleaning that up defensively, especially in a tournament and in a ballpark that will punish you for those errors severely. We saw that in a couple of the games yesterday. I think it was Troy who let Armani Guzman of West Virginia get on an error in the first, and then he came around and stole home in the first inning, and West Virginia won by 2 runs. So cleaning up the defense and not allowing those silly mistakes to happen will be key for the Tide here. Moving on to our second matchup, which is later tonight, one that I'm very excited for. 2 of the 3 highest ranked teams left in the field, number 6 Texas and number 3 Georgia. First off, we'll start with the Horns. Texas 5-0 in this postseason, their second season under head coach Jim Schlossnagle, who, if you don't know, has been pretty much to almost every major Texas baseball program, or at least 3 of the biggest ones. TCU for a long while, Texas A&M for a few years, and then just after appearing in the national championship final round for A&M and losing in game 3, he took his bags and left for Austin. Obviously, huge in-state rivalry there between the Horns and the Aggies, hence the name Lone Star Showdown whenever these two teams play in any sport, not just baseball. But they cruised through their own regional, winning by 18 runs, 14 runs, and then 2 runs. UC Santa Barbara gave them a run for their money. They took on number 11 Oregon in their own Austin Super Regional. The first game, they took an early lead and never looked back. 11-3, they won that one. Second game, they took an early lead again, but then Oregon chipped away. Ultimately, got within one and then tied it, and then ended up taking the lead into, I believe, the 8th inning. I want to say it was, but then a 2-run double for Adrian Rodriguez changed that quickly for Texas. They won 6-5, closing it out in the 8th and the 9th. Some big power hitters here, including at the top of the lineup, the very top, that is, the regional most outstanding player in Austin. That would be the Seton Hall transfer, Aiden Robbins. He's got a .342 batting average, 24 homers, 64 RBIs. He's been solid for them this year. Carson Tinney, a Notre Dame transfer, 22 homers, 58 RBIs. He's a scary bat to face. The SEC Freshman of the Year, Anthony Pack Jr., he's an awesome part of that lineup that they didn't really expect to have at the beginning of the year, but they have nonetheless now. Let's see, you got Adrian Rodriguez, obviously, was a big part. He raked last weekend in the Super Regional against Oregon in both games. You got some veteran experience here as well. Casey Borba from the 8th spot, as well as Rodriguez, as I said. And then some more transfers. Ashton Larson from LSU, Ethan Mendoza from ASU. They've both been key parts of the lineup. Darian Pendergrass hasn't played as much, but he's come into the lineup here for the Horns. He's from College of Charleston. So a bunch of key guys, a bunch of key transfers. Speaking of transfers, another transfer on the pitching mound, Ruger Riojas. I found this interesting. He transferred 2 years ago, 2 off seasons ago, from UTSA. And then what happened last year? UTSA knocks out Texas in their own regional. I believe Texas was the 2 seed overall. This year they're down to 6, which still very impressive. But they were number 2 last year, and the Roadrunners of UTSA knocked them out in Riojas' first year with the Horns since coming over from UTSA. So I thought that was an interesting pickup there. But Riojas has been very solid here with the Austin boys. 5-2 record, 4.04 ERA, 113 strikeouts in 75.2 innings. Dylan Volantis has been great, 10-1 record in 88.2 innings, 2.03 ERA, 126 strikeouts. But the NCBWA Freshman Pitcher of the Year across the country has been Sam Cozart out of the bullpen for Texas. I believe he closed out the game for Texas against Oregon in the Super Regional Game 2 to get the Horns to where they are now, to where they will be playing tonight against Georgia. 49 innings pitched, 6-0 record, 1.65 ERA, 71 strikeouts, 9 saves for Cozart. So in terms of my keys for the Horns here, I've got using situational hitting, again, like Georgia, who I will preview in a little bit. They're a very home run heavy team, and that is not always going to be the case here at Omaha. Charles Schwab Field is not going to always allow you to rely on the long ball as the sole source of all your runs, so they're going to have to scrap out some runs here, if you will, getting guys on base routinely with little to no outs, moving them along with small ball, stolen bases, stuff like that, which again may not necessarily play to their advantage, but we'll see how that all works out here. And then infield stability, again, similar to Alabama, they've had some struggles, especially up the middle of the infield. So getting some guys healthy in the double play turning area of the infield will be key. And hopefully, those errors and mishaps up the middle of the infield and all throughout the field will be limited there. And then finally, Georgia, the Dogs, number 3, the highest ranked team left in the bracket under the third season here for Wes Johnson. They were the number 1 team in the SEC, I think by a few games actually. 23-7 conference record, 1 seed in the SEC. They won the tournament championship. It's all looking great, and they have not looked back since. They swept their own Athens Regional, beating Liberty twice. Got to their own Super Regional, and my goodness, was that one of the series of all time. I think we all could have benefited from a game 3 there, but they won 13-12 and 11-9 against an incredible Mississippi State team who really gave the Dogs a run for their money. Not to be confused with Mississippi State, who's also the Bulldogs there. But interesting stat from that one, 21 homers were hit in that Super Regional. That's the most since 2011. By the way, that was only in 2 games. Imagine if there were 3. That's an average of 10.5 homers between the 2 teams in each of the games, which is insane. Absolutely insane. But the Dogs are no strangers to home runs. In fact, they set a program record 174 team homers. That is, obviously, as I said, a program record, the most in Division I baseball this year, and the 3rd most overall in D1 baseball history. 174 team homers, and there's one guy who can be not mainly attributed to that, but one of the big reasons why they've had so much success, not only through the long ball, but overall from an offensive standpoint, has got to be the Rhino himself, the Wofford transfer, Daniel Jackson. He was just named the Dick Hauser Trophy Award winner, which I believe is the best player in college baseball, or that might be the Golden Spikes, or maybe they're the same thing. I should have looked that up. But regardless, almost a 400 batting average, 396 BA on the season, 31 homers, 86 RBIs, and 26 stolen bases. It is extremely rare in college baseball to find. I mean, who's a part of the 30 homer, 25 stolen base club? I bet the list can be counted on these fingers here. In 63 games played, he's been absurd, as well as a very key part of the Georgia defense behind the dish for the Dogs. So he's been huge. Trey Phelps has been a big part of the lineup as well. 364 batting average, 19 homers, 58 RBIs. Got that veteran presence here entering, or not entering, but in his 3rd year here for Georgia. Michael O'Shaughnessy, he was huge last weekend in Game 1, hit a 3-run homer in the bottom of the 8th in a game that Georgia trailed 12-10 entering the bottom of the 8th and essentially won the game. Brennan Hudson, the first baseman, the regional MVP a couple weekends back for the Dogs. Colby Branch with a few homers in the Super Regionals. So left and right, everywhere you turn, it is power, it is grit, it is toughness here for Georgia, as well as on the pitching staff. Joey Volchko, 10-2 record, 4.07 ERA, a Stanford transfer he is, and 104 strikeouts. Caden Aoki with a 9-1 record, 4.04 ERA, 104 Ks, a 2-time transfer from both Notre Dame and USC, which, again, those two are kind of rivals, but it is what it is. I guess we can grow grow past it, I suppose. And then Justin Bird, 5-2 record, 3.95 ERA, 8 saves for the Dogs. So my key for Georgia here, I only have one: lower chase rates to manufacture runs. As I've said for almost every team here, home runs are going to be limited, which is not going to play to the strengths of Georgia here. So they're going to have to find other ways to manufacture runs. We'll see how they can do that, and they're going to have to find out quickly because number 6 Texas is up first for Georgia. So who do I have coming out of this bracket? I know I said Ole Miss to come out of bracket 1, and they've already lost. So if you've learned anything, maybe don't bet anything that I say, or don't put anything that I say on Kalshi or Polymarket or whatever other betting sources there are. But I'm going to take Georgia, just top to bottom, pitching staff, lineup. They just seem like a team of destiny, and they have way too much power, way too much just absolute raw talent to not be playing next weekend. I think they get through Texas tonight. Who knows? Maybe that could be a rematch in the bracket final between Georgia and Texas. Not to sleep on either Alabama or Oklahoma. Those two teams also very possibly could win. I I really don't know. I've been watching college baseball seriously this season for all of like 2 weeks. So that's what I have here. And then between Georgia and Ole Miss, I'm still going to ride with Ole Miss because I wouldn't change it now, even though they've lost. But I'm going to take Georgia in that one. Give me the Dogs to win the national championship. And Wes Johnson brings a baseball title back to Athens in his 3rd season. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this college baseball series, and I will hopefully see you guys again with some college football predictions, because it is almost that time. Some college football predictions for the upcoming 2026 season in the near future. So that's it for this one. Take care.